Welcome to Barn Banter, the podcast by Horse Illustrated. Each month, we bring guests to educate, entertain, or inspire you as you pursue the horsey lifestyle, plus an adoptable horse with a unique story. I'm Susan Friedland, an equestrian author, blogger, and speaker with a soft spot for off-track thoroughbreds. You can find me at my blog, saddleseekshorse.com, or on Facebook or Instagram at saddleseekshorse.
And I'm Holly Kakanis, editor-in-chief of Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazines. You can find us at horseillustrated.com, youngrider.com, and Horse Illustrated and Young Rider on Instagram and Facebook.
Welcome to Barn Banter, listeners. So, Holly, it's great to see you on my screen.
See you too, yes, on my screen.
We're actually recording this at the end of April, so we will have seen each other in real life at the Kentucky 3-Day. But this is our May episode. We have Tick Maynard as our very special guest. We're excited to chat with him. And Holly, what is new in your world?
Well, consuming all of my time has been getting ready to move, which, as most people know, is a big old pain. But thankfully, just within town to the same area, to a bigger space. Because as you probably know, if you listen to this very often, I have a 5-year-old child, and we bought the current condo we're in, not having a child yet and not really planning to, and then now we've spent 5 years with one bathroom and basically one bedroom plus a bonus space, and it's just too small. And Southern California real estate, you've probably heard, it's a little crazy here, so we've been looking for like a year to find something, and finally found one. So now we're in a big rush to get we had to get everything prepped for sales, and you just basically put all your stuff in storage and leave like your couch is the only thing in the room, your bed is the only thing in the bedroom, but yet trying to also live there while like having none of your stuff is crazy. So,
well, I'm happy to see that Secretariat is still on the wall behind you.
Yes,
in your office.
my realtor okayed that. Yeah. Here's his Belmont 32 length win and his Time magazine cover and another little black and white racing shop.
So yeah, Secretariat taste.
She liked those. Artwork was okay.
Well, no, it's classy, right? Having horse decor is classy, and it's going to make people.
And it's like you can keep anything that's not like personal. Like we have a beach picture that's up and stuff like that. Like you can leave that, but wedding pictures, kid pictures, like everything else got to go. So sad. All of our old AHP awards are down and stuff, but they'll find a new home. So we're hoping to get this move done. I guess the next month or so. But someone needs to buy our house. So somebody please come buy my house.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I was kind of secretly hoping that you were going to tell me you were moving into a barn dominium.
Well, I only wish, but Nellie Gale Horse Neighborhood is across the street from me. That's where I trail ride and release a horse. Every house for sale in Nellie Gale is like between 2 or 3 and about $7 million. But you get about a quarter to a half acre of horse property. However, that's a little out of my budget. I would probably live in the barn if I could in Nellie Gale. But do you know anyone that has this barn dominium?
No, but I'm obsessed. I saw one, I think it was at Equine Affair last November, not to be confused with the most recent Equine Affair I was a part of in Ohio, and it was so cool. And I thought, I could totally live here.
Well, when I was a groom back many, many years and decades ago, I did live in the barn when we were in Ocala. Basically, the center aisle was the horses, and then one side of the stalls was me and the other groom's apartment, and then on the other side of the stalls was the owner's apartment. So I don't know if that's a barn dominium, but yeah, I lived next to a horse stall, and when they're rolling around kicking, you can hear them all night. But it was nice. It was kind of cool.
Actually, you know what? Now that you just said that, I take back any dreams that I have of living in a barndominium because I am the world's lightest sleeper.
Oh.
And as much as I love horses, and especially my own horse, Knight, we're talking like I need some kind of humidifier or air purifier, some kind of sound machine going on. And sometimes I have even had to resort to earplugs plus a pillow over my head if there's any kind of noise. So
okay, I just killed your dream in one fell swoop. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Well, the one good thing about
it's bringing me back to reality.
And I don't mind like where I live now. We're right on a like 6-lane road, like facing the road. And so a lot of the buyers coming through have been like, oh, the road noise. And honestly, I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't notice it at all. During the night, there's no cars driving because it's like a suburban area. So you don't really hear anything at night. But I just was like, road, and I'm like, if you close the windows, I mean, yeah, if the doors and windows are open, I could notice it for sure, but as soon as you close them, I didn't even know you could hear it, so I was surprised
that's really interesting because, and this harkens back to a younger version of me living in Chicago. I had a condo in Bucktown, the neighborhood, and I was right by the train, and you could hear that. I mean, I was so close. I don't know. I mean, I fell asleep somehow. So maybe as I've aged, I've gotten to be a more delicate sleeper.
Well, both my parents and my husband are all from New York and lived in New York City. And they said when you're living in the city, you just cannot sleep if it's quiet. Like my husband said, I like road noise. My parents said, oh, we went to the country once on vacation and we couldn't sleep because we're like, it's too quiet. It's too quiet. So I think you just get used to whatever you're around. So some people love to hear a road.
Maybe one day I'll get used to noises and I'll have a barndominium.
Maybe. So what's new with you and Knight? Have you guys been getting some riding in now that it's nice out?
Well, okay. So I was gone for a couple weeks. I got to go to Florida, and I was invited by a past guest, Natalie Keller-Reinert, author extraordinaire. Yes. She was on last year telling us about foals, to a book release party for Tick Maynard, and for Starting in the Middle. And so that was really fun. But what I realized is as I'm getting a little older, if I'm out of the saddle for a couple weeks, so I didn't ride for like 2.5 weeks, when I get back to it, I'm nervous. And not nervous in like scared, but just it's like, okay. And he's ridden and he has turnout, so it's not like, I don't know if I'm nervous that I'm not going to ride as well. It's weird. But anyway, so I kind of came back to it a little slow, and I do a lot of ground driving with Knight. So I like to ground drive just so I can see, kind of his expression, see his movement, and let him kind of move without having to tote me around on his back. But I did a lesson, and it was just a private lesson, and, just doing walk, trot. We were really working on transitions, and I'm still trying to learn how to ride like an actual dressage rider and not like leaning forward like a hunt seat rider. So anyway, I thought it went great. I got some videos from it. Knight looked very happy and lovely and floaty. And then I got cajoled into joining a group lesson the following day, where in my brain, I just really wanted to kind of pick up where I had left off from the private and just practice some of what we were doing with that. And it was a poles class. And one of the trainers I work with does this great poles class, like with a zigzag and walking poles, and some of them are elevated and some aren't. And she sets it to music, and it's super fun. But I just wasn't in the headspace for it. And there were 5 other horses, and it just felt like a lot. And
that's a lot for a group lesson. Oh no!
Yeah. So like Knight was fine, but there was a point where, and I think there was just a lot going on, and he was a little bit amped, and he kind of did the head shake thing, which that's not normally his personality at all. And then it's like, I think I don't know if this isn't really that fun. I don't like riding that version of him, and I see that version so rarely. And I'm capable enough, I can ride it out, but all the time I'm like, this isn't really that fun. This isn't what I really, which is part of the reason why we stopped jumping, is he just would get anxious and rushy, and it was like, this isn't really fun on him. So anyway, yeah, we went through, and then he got a little wild going through some of the trot poles. And we have a history. There was a point where at one time he really kind of jumped me out of the tack back when I was jumping. So I have that old tape replaying in my brain. And so even though we had started the lesson well, it felt like it just started to devolve a little. And then my heart wasn't in it. And then when I tried to go back to the walk poles, he kind of was, the trainer said his body was more forward than his brain. He was like, I couldn't get him regulated. And then when I did, he kind of like was in the middle of them. And then I got a little scared. And then I started crying because I'm like, I don't want him to launch me over walk poles. And then I'm thinking, this is so stupid. Like, I should know how to do this, having my horse as long as I have and having ridden as long as I have. And so, I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing because then you feel like the weak link in the lesson and stuff. And so it ended okay. And I'm going to go back out today. I didn't ride because of the holiday, Easter. But so I'll start with the walk poles and just do my thing with not as many people in the arena. It had the vibe of a warm-up at a show.
Yeah.
The arena.
Oh, that's the very worst vibe. The very worst. The only time 5 people is good or fine that I think is like out on a cross-country clinic where you've got all the room in the world, but in a ring, like 2 or max 3 for a group lesson is fine, but 5 sounds like a lot to me.
And it's like, it really, maybe I'm being overly dramatic, but it's kind of like, if
you
it's
feel how
people,
you feel, so that's valid.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's different if it's 5 people who are also like, you feel like you trust them and you know they're riding and they're not going to run into you. Like if it was 5 trainers, but it's like some people where I feel like they're not really paying attention. And then I've got my hands full with Knight being a little more forward than I want him to be and having a little more attitude. And then it's like, okay, but they're going that direct. Like it just was, it wasn't. Yeah. So anyway, but the best part is we get to have a do-over. And then I really started to cry more because the trainer told me that Knight trusts me. She's like, there is no doubt that you are his person. Aww. And so when I tried to then come back to the walk poles that were elevated in that, and then I kind of panicked and I was like, in my mind, I was half halting. And actually I made him stop because I didn't want to do it because I'm having a flashback to him jumping me out of the tack over a fence. And so she's like, he did what you asked him to do. He stopped and he trusts you. So,
he's such a good boy.
We got to move on in this episode.
Okay.
It's a little much here, but thank you for asking. And I hope your house sells well. And I'll report back on our progress over walk poles next episode.
Sounds good. Well, good luck. You can do it. I know you can. And he can do it. Well, good. Well, let's get on to our first guest. Susan, can you give us a quick rundown of Tick Maynard?
Tick Maynard is an event rider, originally from Canada. He was in Pony Club, attained his A rating, and he's competed at the Pan Am Games and Modern Pentathlon and at Road to the Horse, World Championship of Colt Starting. He and his wife, Sinead, are clinicians. They live in Citra, Florida. They have 2 children, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking to him. I'm in the middle of his latest book right now, starting in the middle, and I'm really enjoying it. And so I know that our listeners are going to love this interview.
With that, let's hear from Tick.
For special rates on Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazine subscriptions just for our podcast listeners, visit horseillustrated.com/barnbanter.
Welcome, Tick, and congratulations are in order for you. You had a big win at Road to the Horse recently and a new book out. which I have been reading and enjoying. I wanted to finish before our interview, but we're so happy you're here with us today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah. So we want to dive into the book and Road to the Horse and all of that. But first of all, we would love to know just a little bit about your background, your family, pets, horses, all the good things.
Well, originally I'm from Vancouver, Canada, and I grew up in a riding family. My parents both rode, and my brothers and I were all in Pony Club together growing up. And in my mid-20s, after I graduated from the University of British Columbia, I was trying to decide whether I wanted to work with horses as a career or not. You know, both my parents, to some extent, had worked with horses as their career. And so I decided to go and become a working student in a few different places around the world. And when I started that journey, the idea was that I wanted to become a better rider. I wanted to become a competitive rider. I wanted to look better on a horse. I wanted to win more. Just, you know, everything you think about when you think about what makes a good rider. And there were a few things along that journey that kind of started to change the way I was thinking about things. And the first was at David and Karen O'Connor's place in Florida, when they introduced me to the idea of what they called natural horsemanship, or what some people call horsemanship, or what some people call horse psychology. And then from there, I got introduced again by Jonathan Field, who's a fantastic horseman in British Columbia. And then through a connection with Jonathan, I went to Texas and I worked for Bruce Logan. And it was probably really there that I really had this shift where I couldn't turn back from it, where my mindset started to change from I want to be a better rider to I want to be a better horseman. And it was also around that time where I started to realize that I could make this a career. I could make this my whole living, and not because of the competition and not because of being a better rider, but because of when you think about being a better horseman, at least the way that I think of it, I start to think a lot of these things as problem solving, problems to be solved, like a Sudoku puzzle or a crossword puzzle. And you're trying to get into the horse's mind and think about how they see things from their perspective. And, you know, I've just never really looked back since that point. And I'm always looking for a new challenge with horses or a new way of thinking about things. And now I'm in Ocala, Florida with my wife, Sinead, and our two kids, Brooks and Violet.
And are your kids horsey too?
Not yet. Brooks is 6, and he's much more into reptiles, frogs, lizards, snakes, toads, insects, you know, animals like that. Our daughter, Violet, she's 3. And I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up being the horsey one. She's a little bit more into dogs than horses. Although still her favorite animal is the unicorn.
Oh, the unicorn, of course. So, Tick, for some of our listeners who might not be familiar with Road to the Horse, can you give us just a real quick synopsis of what the event is and what makes it unique?
You know, it's a really unique event. I don't think there's many competitions like Road to the Horse in the world. There are some other quote starting competitions for sure. But when I think about horse events, I'm thinking about things where you see the finished product. You know, you see the show jumping Grand Prix, the dressage Grand Prix, the Kentucky 5-star, you know, even the reining or cutting classes or the race horses. We're seeing the horse after it's being done trained. We're not seeing the actual training process. And a Road to the Horse is pretty unique in that every single second of the person training that horse, for better or for worse, is live in front of a live audience of 5,000 or 6,000 people, and in front of cameras and live streaming and judges. You know, I think you can learn if you're a good watcher. You know, everybody has a different learning style. Some people learn by reading or by doing or by having somebody coaching them with their voice in their ear all the time. But my favorite way to learn is by watching. And over the years that I've watched it, the first year I saw it was in 2012. I always feel like I pick up a lot, both when things go well and people seem to do something flawlessly, I learn, but also when people make mistakes and the horse reacts in an unexpected way and the person has to deal with that. I also learn a lot from that. So I'd really encourage people to watch if they've never seen it. The premise is that you have each competitor, there's usually 3 or 4 competitors, has a unstarted, virtually unhandled 3-year-old quarter horse gelding. And each competitor has 3 days to start it, an hour and a half on Friday, an hour and a half on Saturday, and 1 hour on Sunday. So a total of about 4 hours over 3 days to get to the point where you can catch the horse, halter the horse, saddle the horse, ride the horse, walk, trot, canter, pick up the horse's feet, and go through a basic obstacle course.
I don't think there was anything basic about that obstacle course, Tick. I did catch your recent win after the fact, and I've been dabbling a little bit in working equitation with my off-track thoroughbred I've had for 10 years. And I thought, okay, wow. I'm like, Tick doesn't really know this horse. He met him just recently, and he's asking a lot and doing things that well, first of all, just getting my horse in that arena with the crowd, I think, it would not be good. So that was a pretty incredible obstacle course. Yeah. And our listeners should definitely watch that. And last year's, which you also won. So what does it mean to you to have won this honor, not just once, but twice?
Yeah, it's, both years were very different. The first year, it was a bit of both something I've been working for 10 years to get invited to go. You know, it's a competition by invitation only. You can't just apply and go do it. And I've been sort of trying to build connections and a resume so that there was a chance I'd be invited. And then when I actually got invited in the summer of 2023, I had about 9 months to prepare. And even though I didn't have the experience of some of the other competitors in terms of the number of horses that started, I really put a lot into preparing for the competition. And, my whole sort of mantra going into it was that it's not about winning at all. It's about focusing on the process, focusing on reading the horse, focusing on just doing the best job I can, the best job I'm able to do. And basically when we won, it was surreal. I mean, looking back on it now, it still feels kind of like you can't believe it. And, the whole experience is just filled with emotional ups and downs. And it's you just can't sleep for weeks and months leading up to it. At least I couldn't. Maybe some people do. And you just feel so many different feelings when you're done. It's kind of hard to describe. And then this year, I was probably 30% more relaxed, more confident going into it. I knew what to expect a lot more. The first year I was really going into another world. Most of the competitors are Western competitors, Western riders. And it felt like I was going, imagine somebody that doesn't speak Japanese and doesn't know anything about the culture, and they're going to Japan for the first time. And for some reason, time matters, or like how fast you adjust. Like that's what it felt like. I felt like I was going into another world. And even the quarter horses, yes, on one hand, a horse is a horse, but on the other hand, there are some truth to the stereotypes that we hear about to do with, thoroughbreds or warm bloods or quarter horses. And even that, I kept kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Is something going to happen that's unexpected? And then this year in 2025, I felt like I knew a lot more about what it was going to be like. And that gave me a confidence. Probably the biggest thing that worked against me this year was the number of people that asked me, are you going to go back and defend your title? And right away, that puts a certain amount of kind of pressure on somebody. And that was pressure that I didn't want. I put enough pressure on myself, and the situation had enough pressure. And what, a big kind of idea of the competition is that you're trying to take all that pressure that you're feeling, and you're trying not to pass any of it on to the horse. Wow.
Well, okay. So regarding the prize, I saw a beautiful, I think it was a Circle Y saddle.
Yeah.
This may be a really weird question, but I will never win a saddle as a trophy. So will you actually ride in that saddle, or is it more of like something to display and showcase and just have a fond memory?
I think it'll probably just be something that sits on the saddle rack. I think for two reasons. One is I still don't ride in a Western saddle very much. I'm mainly riding in an English jump saddle or dressage saddle. And the second reason is that preparing for Road to the Horse this year, I got a saddle from Contour Saddlery, and I sort of got one specifically made to the specifications of what I wanted for the Road to the Horse. And I think, that'll be the saddle that I've already broken in a little bit, and that'll be the saddle that I'll use going forward if I decide to use a Western saddle for something.
That's really cool. Okay. So I have been dog-earing all these different pages from starting in the middle. And there was a quote that really captured my attention. And so I'm going to read it to you. And I just would love for you to elaborate on it a little bit more. So it was on page 35. You said, if I could improve one thing about the horse world, it would not be people's riding skill or their access to better veterinary care. It would be our ability to accurately read stress in a horse. That resonated with me, and I would just love to dig a little deeper into that. Why?
It's interesting that you picked that, because I actually had a little pushback. I had 4 or 5 people read the book before it went to print, with my publishers being 1 or 2 of those people. And then, some people close to me and my wife and my mother. And there were a couple of people that said, why would you pick that? Why not better vet care, for example? And I think it's because what I see in horses is, let me back up. I feel like everybody in the horse world sees different things in a horse. I think some people are much better than I am at seeing how a horse moves in dressage, or seeing how a horse jumps, or seeing the potential in a young horse. Even when we talk about a horse's soundness, I could have my wife or my vet out and we could jog up a horse and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's 1 out of 5 in the right hind or 0.5 lame in the left front. And I'll just be looking at the horse. I'm like, looks totally sound to me. Looks good. And I just don't have my eye as finely tuned as they do for that. But what my eye is always sort of drawn to the most in a horse is whether they look anxious or nervous or scared. And so that's the thing that I would probably pick, because that's kind of what drives me crazy. I think also if people recognize that, it would show up in so many different ways in how they treat horses on a day-to-day basis, not just in competition, but also around the barn, also when they catch a horse, also when they're grooming a horse, also when they're saddling a horse. And they would just start to become more aware of when to push and when to back off, and probably with more of an emphasis on when to back off. But in Road to the Horse, it's really a competition about knowing when to push and when to back off. Because if you push at the wrong times, you stress your horse out. And if you back off 100% of the time, you never get anything done. So it's about really picking your moments. Like, here's a moment where you can push a little bit, and here's a moment where you can back off a little bit.
I want to go back to the research you did too. And I can see a bookshelf behind you. And for anyone who reads your book, you quote a lot of different books that were influential to you. And I was curious to know, how did you track down? It sounded like you found some books that maybe were written a very long time ago, one of them being about imprint training with foals and that. So how did you go about finding this kind of canon of horse training books to read and study?
I think there's probably a lot of horse people out there that sort of start that collection. You are at a tack shop or a garage sale, or you find something online, and you just kind of start collecting them as you go. And people have different interests in, whatever aspect of the horse that they're interested in, whether it's hoof care or veterinary care. I've met a lot of 3-day event riders that have, just whole bookshelves of stuff on jumping, how to jump horses, or books on dressage. And the books that I tend to collect sort of focus more on horse psychology, how they learn, how they think, horsemanship, stuff like that. And kind of just always got my eyes open for them. And not just books, but DVDs. I mean, DVDs are a little out of date these days, but if I had paid retail price for all the DVDs I've got, I'm looking at them now. I mean, I bet I'd have over $10,000 of DVDs.
That's really cool. If you had to narrow it down to your greatest influences, I'm the kind of person, I don't like just to narrowing down to one thing, but maybe 1 or 2 people or DVDs, books. Could you cite your greatest influence?
There's too many, and it almost makes me nervous to start citing them because I'm going to leave somebody out, but I can try. Definitely the biggest influence is still, in terms of just how I think about stuff, are my family. Both my parents and my wife, they are constantly also thinking and interacting with horses. And it's something that we talk about all the time. So I would say that definitely influences me the most. David and Karen O'Connor, when I was first getting started. And then in terms of horsemanship, Jonathan Field at the beginning. There's been so many people since then. Glenn Stewart, Martin Black, down the road, a good friend of mine, Jake Birnbaum. Then even outside of stuff that I've sort of personally experienced, a great documentary is Buck by Buck, about Buck Brannaman, which is a great show to watch. I'm constantly watching people at horse expos, whether it's Guy McLean or Craig Cameron or Luke Gingrich or Dan James or whoever it is. I think somebody that's made a massive impact on the horse world are both Pat and Linda Pirelli. They're obviously divorced now and they both have their own program. But there's been a huge number of people that have come out of their program that are maybe, some of them are still in the program, but some of them have started on their own, like Jonathan Field being one, Bruce Logan, Kathy Barr, just a huge number of people that have gone on to become sort of successful in their own right. Obviously, these days, Warwick Schiller has been a big influence for a lot of people in terms of how he thinks about stuff. I think his book on the principles of training is probably one of the best horse training books ever written. I think it's fantastic. But there's so many things. Like Mark Rashid, his books really influenced me as well in terms of how thoughtful he is about stuff. I think there's a lot of people, myself included, before I kind of really started this journey into horsemanship, that think of horses more like a motorcycle. Like a motorcycle is complicated, and I think some people can even love a motorcycle. Like they would cry if it crashed or got dented. But it's a little bit different than really understanding something that can think and learn and have their own feelings independent of you. It's a little bit different.
There was a moment early on in the book where you described you were at an event, you're an eventer, and you were riding 3 tense horses thinking, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And then you started questioning success and winning. And maybe you can take us back to that moment and help us understand how you think about success and winning and the overlap with the two.
I think that's something that I started kind of a process that started probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer, and a process that I'm probably in the middle of right now, and something that I will be thinking about probably for the next 5 or 10 years. And it's that balance between trying to get something done, whether it's competing or even just trying to take your horse on a trail ride or maybe just even catching a horse that doesn't want to be caught. And it's the balance between trying to do what you want to do and trying to take into account how the horse feels about it. And I don't think there's an easy answer to that. Even when people say things like, it's easy, just always put the horse first. I think there's even a lot of nuance to that. For example, if a horse is injured and you're putting them on stall rest, that might be better for them physically, but it may not be better for them mentally. And I think constantly being able to ask yourself the question is the important thing.
I think maybe why that quote resonated with me about, I don't know if I want to keep doing this, because it seemed like you then, and from your first book too, like you've pivoted and explored many paths in the horse world, which I think is so unique. And something I feel like we get into our little silos of, I do this discipline and I ride this breed of horse. And so if you had advice for someone who maybe is finding themselves in their particular discipline or breed or just routine with their horse and they're feeling like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this, do you have any advice for them?
I listened to an interview with Yo-Yo Ma. You know who he is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's a cellist, I think. And I listened to an interview with him on NPR. And one of the things he said was that at a certain point in his life, he started thinking of himself as a musician first and a cellist second. And I just found that really beautiful for some reason. And I think to start thinking of ourselves as maybe a horseman first and a dressage rider second, or a horseman first and a jumper rider second, I think is really important. And I'm not a musician at all, but when I think about somebody that I would really admire and be drawn to, maybe as a hero in a story, for example, it would be somebody that was a musician first and a singer or a guitarist second. Somebody that delves a little bit deeper and understands the complexities of it rather than just having that one discipline.
I love that. Straight from the mouth of Yo-Yo Ma and Tick Maynard.
It makes me actually think of a fiction book. I'm trying to think of the name of it right now. I think it's called The Magic Strings of Frankie Presto. And it's written by the guy that wrote the fiction. He's written a bunch of fiction books about things to do with like life and death. And he wrote about, I think Tuesdays with Morrie was his best known book.
Yes. In your latest book, Starting in the Middle, that everyone who's listening should read, there's a part, I think you might be on a run and you're thinking about the books you want to write. So I don't know if you're able to share with us what some of those books that you may still have in you that we could look forward to in the future are.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many books I'd love to write. As you know, the hard part is probably just getting the time to do it. I certainly don't get writer's block. I'm always looking for more time to sit down and have a coffee and relax and write. It feels like such a treat when I get time to do that. One of the books I'd love to write is called Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Horsemanship. And it'd be exploring the world of liberty and different liberty trainers around the world. A second book is based on what I call the 4 building blocks or the 4 ingredients of all good training, which I call observation, communication, motivation, and play. And that was based on an idea or a book called Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which is a cookbook by Simin Nosrat, which is salt, fat, acid, heat are the, sort of the building blocks or the ingredients of all good cooking. And that cookbook was actually so successful, it was made into a Netflix docuseries, which is like amazingly produced as well. And then other books that I'd love to do down the road, which aren't as kind of fleshed out, would be there's an author, A.J. Jacobs, who writes like A Year of Living biblically and other books like that, where he spends a year investigating different things. And I'd love to do that for different things in the horse world, like spend a year learning about endurance or a year learning about whatever and writing about that.
Well, I look forward to reading those whenever they come out down the road. They got your hands a little full right now with the young family and all of that. Holly, I feel like I'm monopolizing this conversation here.
Well, I just want to say I'm in the same boat with a 5-year-old son who is not into riding right now, but we'll see. He's cars and trucks all day, but hopefully he'll get with it a little bit. And it's always fun if you can share your hobby with your kids. But I was really interested, a lot of your background, like Susan was saying, it's so varied and just different from I'm an eventer too, and I've just always been an eventer, but seeing like all the things you've done was super interesting. I was wondering about the modern pentathlon, like how did you get into that? And then how did you kind of transition out of that? Like, did you enjoy it? It sounds really hard. This was kind of curious about that.
So modern pentathlon, for the people out there that don't know, is 5 sports: running, swimming, shooting, fencing, and riding. Although what's happening now, just after the last Olympics and leading up to the LA Olympics, is they've actually taken out the riding portion and they're replacing it with sort of a running obstacle course, sort of like a parkour type thing. And I got into it through Pony Club. Pony clubs in the United States and Canada, in the UK and Australia, in Ireland, a lot of them have what's called tetrathlon, which is almost like modern pentathlon, but it doesn't have the fencing. And, a lot of Pony Club kids between the ages of sort of 5 and 21 will get introduced to tetrathlon that way. And then a lot of those kids will then go on to do modern pentathlon, which has those 4 sports plus fencing. And modern pentathlon has been in the Olympics since the very first modern Olympics, I think in maybe 1908. And a lot of countries around the world do it. And actually the most competitive countries are not the countries that start with riding. They're more like the, Eastern European countries that start with swimming. Those are often the most competitive countries, like Hungary and the Czech Republic and stuff like that. And they'll recruit sort of swimmers that are maybe 13, 14 years old and not quite Olympic caliber, but still very competitive swimmers. And then they'll teach them the other 4 disciplines. And I did that through university, and then full-time for for a year or 2 after that. And then I switched to riding full-time.
That's interesting. So just like your background growing up, your dad doing venting, show jumping, your mom doing dressage. It just seems like an amazing dream to me to grow up that way. My parents weren't horsey. So, do you feel like that just put you in, horses, training, riding? That's definitely going to be my career. Or did you think about other careers too?
Growing up, at least through high school and maybe even into university, there was not a lot of emphasis on having a career in my family. I don't think my parents ever really asked me what I wanted to do or pushed me in a direction that was going to set me up for success in a later career. I remember going into high school, which was a very good high school in our area. And, a lot of people that I knew at that high school, I remember they would say things like their parents would pay them to get good marks, or, how important that was to their parents and stuff like that. And I remember when I went to my first day of high school, my mom taking me aside and just being like, these marks don't matter very much. Just have a good time.
I think that's every teenager's dream to hear.
And I don't know if she would have said that to everybody, but for me, the way it worked with me is it actually drove me to myself to get better marks because I knew she wasn't going to push me.
Well, Susan, did you have any other questions today, or?
I created a rapid fire segment.
Oh,
this is new.
Fun.
We're launching this special with you. So I'm going to I'm just going to say a series of things, and then you just have to say which one of the 2 you prefer. Are you guys ready?
Ready.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Dressage or cross country?
Cross country.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Geldings or mares?
Geldings.
Pizza or tacos?
Tacos.
Dad jokes or practical jokes?
Dad jokes.
Pickleball or ping pong?
Ping pong.
Yes.
Those are easy questions. Those are great. Those are easy.
Well, thank you. I should have started with those.
But Susan, do you know what you call somebody that tells dad jokes that's not a real dad?
I think I do.
A faux pas.
That's a good one. Our listeners are going to love that. Okay, Holly. Okay, Tick. Where can people find you, follow you, read your books, all the good stuff?
The books are sold through Trafalgar Square Books, a small publishing company based in Vermont. Just go on their website, and they have a lot of good publishers. Hopefully, your local tack shop or bookstore might be carrying them. Starting in May, Amazon will also have them. Obviously, if you're in a position where you can order direct from the publisher, that's better than going through Amazon, but we all have to order from Amazon sometimes. I'll also be at some events and clinics around the country, so feel free to check out my website, which is Copperline Farm, and maybe Facebook. Sometimes we put stuff on Facebook. Tick Maynard or Copperline. But before we get close to wrapping this up, I just want to thank you, Susan and Holly, for having me, and also Susan and Natalie for coming to the book launch that we had a couple of weeks ago in Ocala. That really meant a lot that you came for that, so thank you.
Well, that was really fun, and I'm glad Natalie invited me because I didn't even know. I loved your first book so much, and I didn't even know you had a second one in the works ready, so
no, that was awesome. That was awesome. I love it, in the horse world, when you have different professionals collaborating. And I feel like it's so nice, in other worlds, whether it's the book world or other things where you see people sort of getting along and collaborating and talking and discussing rather than being competitive about the space. So I think that's really awesome.
That's a heartwarming note to end on. Thanks again, Tick, for coming. We really appreciate having you and wish you all the best.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me, and hope to see you two again soon.
Our next guest today is Nicole Page. She is founder and president of Serenity Oaks Equine Sanctuary in Plymouth, Michigan. Nicole, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Holly.
So today, our adoptable horse is going to be one that definitely is catching my eye. I'm a thoroughbred person, so this guy is a tall drink of water, 17 2 hands, dark bay. I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about Nash?
So Nash is 7 years old. He will be a companion horse. He gets along well with geldings and mares. He's in a mixed pasture right now. So he is out 24/7. He does come in and he will stall. He's actually very super sweet. You can do all kinds of things with him, like agility. He would be really good at, like in hand. He will walk around with you. He's very good on the ground, very quiet. So he does get spooked sometimes, but it's not too bad.
Okay. And it looks like said he was an easy keeper. So that's important for a big thoroughbred. People often think, oh, I'm going to have to feed this horse 100 pounds of grain a day. So
he only has half a scoop, 2 pounds of Calm and Easy a day. And he doesn't wear shoes. I mean, he's very super easy keeper.
And is he on any kind of medication or anything for upkeep?
So he takes an Equiox daily just for arthritis.
Sounds good.
And he's non-raced. He has never been on the track.
Okay, so was his injury from training? So I can't remember what it said on his listing.
His injury was from a pasture accident when he was... He's actually been in rescue since he was 3. Oh. So he definitely needs a...
Yeah. Well, he sounds very sweet. Does he like grooming and hanging out with other horses? He's good for...
Yep. He likes grooming. He likes hanging out with other horses. He likes playing with other horses. He does well with any age of horses. To have like a younger horse on the property would probably be good too, because he loves to play. So he gets along well with just geldings, with just mares, or even in a mixed herd.
That's great, because some places I know they separate mares out and some places they don't. So it's always good to have that option.
Right.
And then I was wondering if you could tell us about your sanctuary. It looks like you started it back in 2019 and just have a passion for thoroughbreds. I'd love to know all about how that happened and what kind of horses, how many, all that good stuff.
So it started with 2 thoroughbreds that my family and I adopted, not knowing anything about thoroughbreds. Time went on, and after having them, we realized that we could be beneficial in rehabbing them, doing aftercare, and we really I just love how like intelligent they are, and they're very honest, I feel like. So I started the sanctuary, and we started really small. Now we have about 26 horses on the property total. Most are companion horses, so that's more so our specialty, I would say. We do a lot of aftercare as they come straight off the track. But brood mares, I have like a little special place in my heart for brood mares. So we have a lot of brood mares that after they came off the track, they were brood mares, and then they came to us directly, and we are just rehabbing them, doing the aftercare, and a lot of them have like arthritis and just different issues that make them non-rideable. So we work with them every day in hand. We have an agility course in our arena, so we take them through that, try to, do the whole companion. And they're very well socialized. They're out there with, mares and geldings. And so that's basically what we do. We do have an equine assisted therapy program too, but there's no riding involved. It's just in hand. And we have licensed therapists that run that.
So it sounds like the horses get a lot of daily handling. That is wonderful, especially with those companion horses, to see them getting a lot of daily work and just getting touched every day, so they don't turn feral. So that's always really nice to see. So Plymouth, Michigan, I am not that familiar with that area. Are you close to Detroit or any other cities?
We are about 30 minutes north of Detroit. So, and we're about 10 minutes east of Ann Arbor. So we're pretty close to the different cities, but our area in particular is rural. So
okay, so getting to be nice weather this time of year. If anyone wants to go adopt a horse from that area, sounds like a good time to do it. And how can people find out more about Nash and reach out to you guys about adoption? So
they can find out more about Nash at My Right Horse. We have actually all of our listings are on there for the horses, or they can visit our website at Serenity Oaks Equine Sanctuary.com. And then we do have a companion camp starting in May. So we are taking up to 4 people that can participate with the companion horses. So that, like, if they like Nash, you'll spend 4 different weeks in a row with him with a licensed therapist, and then you can learn like all about him, learn how to groom him, learn how he handles, and then that will help you decide if he's a right fit for you for adoption.
Well, that's amazing.
And that starts in May, so it'll be on our website today.
That sounds like a really cool program. I love that. We'll definitely
it's a pilot program, so we're going to see how it goes. And with May being adoption month for horses, we figured it was a good time to roll it out.
Okay, so great. And we will have a link to Nash in our show notes so everyone can see what he looks like too, nice and easily, and find out more about him.
He's a handsome boy.
He sure is. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Don't be shy. Show us some barn banter love by leaving a review, and you can tell all your friends too.